Good evening. This public hearing for the Romulus Community Schools Board of Education Truth in Taxation hearing is called to order at 5:46 p.m. Mrs. Beard, could you do roll call for me, please?
Mrs. Bowles is not present yet. Mrs. Kraut? Here. Mrs. Funderburg? Here. Mrs. Buckley? Here. Mr. Steed is not here yet. Mrs. Beard present. Mr. McLaughlin?
Present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda for this public hearing. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented. Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Buckley. I'm sorry, was that Ms. Kraut?
No, it was me.
Ms. Funderburg?
I'm sorry.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We are now into the, it says budget hearing, but it's actually a truth in taxation discussion. Ms. Papazaglou, the floor is yours. Okay, that's good. We have a board member that just arrived, so. Howdy. The Romulus train.
So good evening, board members and community member and the viewing audience at home. So we're here tonight to conduct our truth and taxation hearing. This is required of us by the state of Michigan. It enables us to declare what tax levies we will be levying on certain properties for the 2013-2014 school year, and allows the board an opportunity to discuss those, as well as allows the opportunity of the community to weigh in if they feel the need to. I'm Sherry Papazaglou, Director of Business and Operations here in Romulus Community Schools. So the first thing we're going to go through briefly, because we have a new member, she actually isn't here right now, but just a reminder for those that have been here for a while or that may have forgotten, we have different types of taxable property classifications, and we have different types of levies in the Romulus Community School District. We have non-homestead properties. Those are primarily real properties on commercial and industrial, so building and land. Those properties pay the state education tax, which is 6 mills, non-homestead tax, which for Romulus is 18 mills, a sinking fund tax if it's applicable, and a debt service tax is if it's applicable. And then we have homestead properties, which are residential, but there's also commercial, industrial, personal property that fits in within this category. And the taxes that those particular properties pay, once again, is the state education tax at 6 mills, the homestead tax, or hold harmless as I refer to it, sinking fund, and debt service. Okay. So I always like to recap what our levies are for the current year. So for 2012-2013, the district is currently levying 18 operating mills. Again, that goes against non-homestead properties. We are currently levying 1.947 mills on hold harmless or homestead properties. That also includes industrial and commercial personal property. We have debt retirement mills of 7, sinking fund of 0.375. So the total mills levied for this particular school year, which is about to end in about 2 weeks, is 27.3220. And again, I noted at the bottom that there's a state education levy of 6 mills. That money, those funds do not come to the district, but I always like to inform the citizens that that's a tax on their tax statement that also goes to the Department of Michigan, or State of Michigan, for purposes of education. So what I want to talk a little bit about real quick is hold harmless and at-risk funds and how the two interrelate and the moving pieces that the district is required to research and investigate annually to figure out what a hold harmless homestead millage rate will be at any given year. So annually, the Board of Education has two options in terms of hold harmless mills and at-risk funding. It can levy the total amount of allowable mills, and that's calculated based on the current property tax values of residential, industrial, and commercial personal property. And it also takes into consideration student enrollment, which, as most of you know by now, are uncontrollable variances in the district. So they can go up and they can go down throughout the entire year. The other road or option that the district can take, or the Board of Education can take, is to levy an estimated hold harmless mills and try to attempt to qualify for at-risk funding at the state level. And again, it's based on property tax values and student enrollment, but the increased variables, the uncontrolled variables, actually increase in this case because you're dealing with a few more factors that go into the calculation. So what I'm trying to say here is that the Board of Education has two avenues it can take in terms of hold harmless mills or homestead mills. They can take the route of taxing right off the bat what the allowable mills are, which for Romulus is the authorized is 5.1314. The allowables, I'll show you in a minute, is close to about 4.41 mills. And then we can also choose the route of going the other direction and trying to get at-risk funding for the district. It's going to range anywhere between 1.2 to 1.3 million estimated today. Again, that can change depending on how many districts apply for it. And if in fact that the eligibility is met, they can lower the hold harmless mills. So it's a way of funding, a different mechanism of funding. Does everybody understand that? Okay, great. So I'll just go through real quick the variables. I touched on them already. Property tax value changes. Most people say, well, my residential taxable value has gone down. Really, we're talking about industrial personal property, and we're talking about some of the new warehouses or factories that they're bringing into Romulus. That is having an impact. Now, it's a positive impact in terms of finances, but when it comes to calculating at-risk dollars or the potential for at-risk dollars, it does have a negative impact on us. In terms of student enrollment, we typically project about 200 students less than we had the previous year, and then that's what I'm going to recommend again. And for the first time in a long time, there is legislation out there in this new budget plan for state aid categorical for hold harmless of $29. I don't have a lot of details on it. I've asked questions at the state. They're not really able to provide me a lot. I expect to hear more in the coming days, hopefully before June 30th. But it is a new categorical that would come through state aid. We expect that if we do get that, and again, the only districts that will qualify for that are districts that are hold harmless districts. I can't remember how many, between 8 and it could be as much as 20.
Is that 29 per child?
It's 29 per pupil.
Okay.
Yes. I have a document that was sent to me, and it describes all the different types of categoricals or deducts or adds to state aid, and that's one of them. Will it come true? I don't know, but it's something we want to consider because I in fact believe that if we're going to get this $29 from the state, we will not be able to collect that amount in tax levy from the community, so we have to be real careful here. It's something that the pieces are unknown of, but I'm working really hard to get answers. So basically the bottom line here is I just want you to remind there's moving pieces all year long in regards to this calculation. I don't know how many times I can say that. I just want to make sure that you remember it as we go through the year. And then the fortunate part is in September of this year, we can make adjustments as necessary for the winter tax bill. So let's in fact say we've levied too less of an amount. We can actually increase that if we had to. Of course, that would have to come to the board for board approval. We'd have to have a truth and taxation hearing just like we are today, so the community has an opportunity to, to share with us how they feel about that.
And, excuse me, Sherry.
Yes.
Conversely, if we find we need to adjust downward, we can go through the same process.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. So what is the current status of at-risk funding? We have continued eligibility right now for 12-13. We've confirmed with the Michigan Department of Ed and Michigan Department of Treasury. They have a recommended plan. That recommended plan requires us to reduce our mills next year by 0.187. So as I'm showing you these documents, as we're going to be going through the slides, this all plays into how the figures are calculated.
Sherry, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch this earlier, when we were preparing the presentation. Would now be a good time, or at the end of the presentation, to inform the board of what happened with the at-risk eligibility on Friday?
Absolutely. So what happens is, as you know, in June and September, we set the levies. In this particular case for hold harmless, we didn't pass it until August of 2012, so we didn't have an opportunity to put it on the tax roll until the winter bill, which was sent in with a September, I just talked about the September date, a September, we call it an L4029. And it goes to the city, to the county, to the state. And what happens throughout the year, remember I talked about those moving pieces? Well, what happened to Romulus, we were receiving our at-risk funding from October all the way up through April. When we got our May state aid payment, they deducted the complete amount. It was around $850,000 from our state aid payment, okay? In contacting the state to find out why, both the Treasury Department and the Michigan Department of Education, at first they thought there might be a mistake with a file that went up to the state. And then they wanted to review the property tax values and thought there could be a mistake with the uploading of those. Well, when all the research was done and the investigation was done, they said, no, the property tax values that we are using to generate what would be your May state aid at-risk payment threw you out of eligibility. Basically what they were telling me is, I'm getting real detailed here, but we're basically allowed $276.63 per general ed student. Our general ed student population is 2,826.25 FTEs. As that property tax value changes, if it went up, it actually threw us into like $280 per student. And at that point, you're not eligible anymore. Okay, so the whole year goes on. We're unaware of all of the increases and decreases on a daily basis. The county only uploads their information in October and in May. So we go a very long period of time without knowing how these property tax values changes can impact. And in this particular case, it has to do with industrial personal property. I mentioned that earlier, but in this particular case, it was industrial personal property. It changed enough to throw us out of eligibility. After contacting the state to explain to them the financial implication it would have on a district who's already served, the majority of their school district, they heard loud and clear what we were saying. This is a major budget impact on us. It's a cash flow problem on us, with us. Can you do something to work with us to remedy the situation? And they said, in fact, yes, we will. The Michigan Department of Treasury was the one who came up with the plan to allow the district to continue their eligibility for at-risk this year. And again, it's about a little over $1.3 million, as long as the district agreed to lower their levy next year by the amount, the difference. So we levied 1.947. If we would have used the increased taxable value, we would have been closer to a mill of 1.76. So the difference between the 1.947 and the 1.76 is equivalent to that.
So it's minus the 18.
Exactly, the difference between those two. And we're committed to doing that because it's the right thing to do. The Michigan Department of Education was the one, not until this afternoon, about 2 o'clock, I didn't have their blessing. In preparation for tonight, I was getting a little nervous, but they put their blessing on it. We do have a few questions for them that I have out to Treasury and to the state to make sure that we understand what our expectations are. And I hope tomorrow to have a plan from them, something in writing that we would have to be able to document and go back to if we needed to. So that's where we are. Is that clear?
Sharon, if I can add to that, just so that it's on the record and out there for viewing audience as well. In dealing with this issue, since you became aware of it Friday, and board members, that's why you got the notice in your packets that the administration would be working throughout the weekend on this. I want to publicly thank Representatives Doug Geis, Senator Hoon Young Hopgood, Senator Glenn Anderson, Representative David Kniesik, and then Senator Hopgood's staff, Adam DeLay and Andrea Cascarilla. They worked throughout the weekend and all day today, including a call that happened around 2:30 this afternoon in Sherry's office, making sure that we had a handle on this situation and that you were being brought the most accurate information that's humanly possible. So our administration, you know, Sherry and Paula and Rebecca for that matter, all weekend long were in communication with me, and I appreciate that, and we do feel we have a handle on the situation, but you know, kudos. So
Yes, I
go
appreciate
ahead.
that too. I got a call from Representative Geis as well, myself, so. Okay, so remember I talked about two different options. The first option, again, would be to levy all of the allowable mills to the community on homestead and commercial and personal property. What it would look like is 18 mills for operating. That doesn't change. The hold harmless or homestead is what we're talking about in particular with at risk, would be 4.2278. If we just forgot about attempting for eligibility for at risk and just completely went with putting it on the tax roll, the levy would be 4.2278. Remember, right now we're at 1.947. Debt is 7 mills, sinking fund at 0.75, which would give us a total mills levied of 29.9778. And then the bottom is just a reminder that the state collects 6 mills on the tax bills, but it does not come to the district. It goes right to the state of Michigan. So that's option 1.
Sherry.
Yes.
So, just so that I'm clear, you're saying you want to tax them all at one time?
I'm not done.
Okay.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Okay? Hold that thought. I think I'll answer your question. If not, we'll go back to it.
Okay.
So that's option 1. The clicker is not working. And so this just gives you a snapshot. I don't know if the folks in the audience can see it, but you know where we've been and where we are today. Going back to 2009, 2010, we were around 30 mills, almost 31. We went down the next year. We did not collect hold harmless that year in an effort to repay an over levy that we had in previous years. 2011-12, we're at 29.62. Last year, or the year that we're currently in right now, 27.32. And then this year, it's 29.97. But I want to show you one thing. 2 reasons. One of them, again, the theory for how we do business here has changed. And in this particular case, we only had a half a year on sinking fund last year because we didn't levy it in the summer. We only levied it in the winter. So there's a difference there. Okay? Okay, moving forward, let's talk about what it would look like for an average homeowner, because I think for the audience and for the board member who also pay taxes here, you'd be interested in what this would look like for you. So the first column to the left is the market value of a home. Typically, the taxable value is half of that, which is the second column. The HH stands for hold harmless, or again, interchangeably with homestead. If we project it as I just described to you at 4.227 mills, the debt mills is the next column, sinking fund, the total mills on a residential property only, and then what someone in this particular taxable value would have paid last year. So, just to make it simple, if you had a taxable value of $60,000, next year you'd pay $718.67 annually, and this year you paid $559. Again, remember, we changed the way we do, or that we're collecting hold harmless in terms of this year at risk and levies, and next year all tax. Now this is just an option. Okay? Okay, moving on to option 2. Option 2 provides us the flexibility to attempt eligibility for at risk and to keep our hold harmless millage low for our community members. So the only thing on here that's changed is that second line, HH mills. And we're projecting instead of that 4.2 mills, we'd be levying 1.3137. And what that is we've calculated it out. And you have a sheet that's in front of you. It has green and yellow and red. To me, it's easy to read, but for someone who's not real familiar with it, it might be a little confusing. What I do is I take what the taxable value for these particular properties are going to be. I take what the estimated student enrollment, and I've declined that or reduced it by 200. And I have to figure out at what trigger point do we remain eligible for at risk. And again, remember I said $276, anywhere between $246 and $276, depending on how this budget item for a hold harmless categorical of $29 goes. I'm not sure how that's going to work. But basically, I've come to a point, I want to keep us as low as possible, not only for the community, but so we don't have any issues moving forward if we have some major fluctuations of personal property taxes. I can't guarantee that. It's the best guess we have today. But I think we're even using more caution this year than we did the previous year. I think that's our way of life for a while. So anyway, that second line, the 1.5 mils, I think is where it gets us. I don't have it in front of me, but is it 230 something? You should see it highlighted in yellow. 230. So remember, I said anywhere between 247.63 and 276.63 is where we want to be.
235.02.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying it's 235.02.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So that's what I would be recommending. I think it's middle of the road. It's not too low. It's not too high. With as much security as I can give you, that would be what direction I would lead you to. And so anyway, that 1.5 mils you'll see in those calculations, I've reduced it by the amount that we have to next year because that's the plan to remain eligible this year. We made a commitment. We're going to make a commitment to the state that we're going to reduce it for next year. It would actually give us a levy of 1.3137, which is lower than what we're levying right now. So total mills would then be 27.0637. And again, just a reminder of the state education tax. And here's what, in comparison to previous years, what it looks like. I think probably one you're probably most interested in is 1213 to 1314. And you can actually see, even with the transition and adding another half year of the sinking fund back on the roll, we're actually less mills than we were the previous year. So that's good news for the community. And good news for Romulus. Does everybody understand? It's complicated. And so for the average homeowner, this is what it would look like. We'll just use the example again of a $60,000 taxable home value. $559 is what you're paying right now. $543.82 is what you would pay this coming 13-14 school year. But I can't preface it enough about the moving pieces. And, if the district under levies by an extreme amount, we can capture that. We can revise September 2013. We can make a revision. We can also revise it in the next year if we needed to. There is a provision in the law. But again, all of those items come to the Board of Education for approval. It's not something the district administration could just do arbitrarily. It has to have your stamp of approval on it. So, before I forget, remember all of these levies, half of them are collected in the summer and half in the winter. So I just want to remind you of that. You'll actually see that if you look at the L4029 form. It's a landscape document that needs a couple signatures. It should be the first page. Paula has it. Can you show them?
The difference is the state summer tax.
Exactly. That's not on it because we don't collect that. The city of Romulus actually collects that for the state. But I just like to remind people because it is an education tax. It just does not come to the district.
Yeah, and that's all collected in summer.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. So just a reminder, it's half and half. So what I'm recommending tonight, administrative recommendation, is to go with option 2, to lower the HH mills as much as we can and qualify for at-risk eligibility. I want you to remember to consider the variables, the moving pieces to all of these calculations that I don't have control over. You don't have control over them either. We monitored the changes to the best of our ability. I have a lot of connections now in Lansing, my friends in Lansing, so I think that might be a little helpful. I have to say they did the best they could in this situation, and I will be thanking them for that. Again, reminder, in September 2013, we can have another Truth in Taxation hearing and make adjustments if needed. And then, of course, if it was the board's pleasure that we were so under-levied in an attempt to qualify, we could actually fix that in 14-15 again, only with board approval. So now's the time for questions and comments. In front of you, you have several official documents. Those documents actually go to the city, and they're required to be there by the 15th per an agreement. And questions?
Any questions, board members?
I guess it's more of like kind of logistics for you. I mean, I know that it's extremely time consuming, but pretty much the overall, you're saying that if we needed to make adjustments, that we're going to be allotted a certain time frame in order to do those, to adjust the mills if we have to.
Yes.
Does the state have anything in place that kind of gives you like what the picture would look like halfway through, so then that way you could kind of prepare yourself if there were any adjustments?
So what I know is that they upload information in October, which is pre-September. But I'm sure that I could reach out to the county or even the city to say, hey, you know, has anything changed since we looked at these in June?
Okay, so.
But there's nothing in stone. I know that they upload their information in October and May. And there's nothing we can do between those dates. Absolutely nothing. We don't have another opportunity to have a truth and taxation hearing. It's just not allowable.
I understand definitely the need to make sure that we want to give our taxpayers a break, but from the logistics standpoint of keeping the books and making sure that our vendors are paid and that we have money to pay our employees, what does that look like for you? I mean, other than send you into panic.
It's a business manager's nightmare.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what kind of got us into this situation is, you know, the moving pieces. And the concern is if we still budget with a higher rate than what they've recommended, that could very likely bring us to the same situation.
Yeah.
This is the most likely scenario to get us safely through without having to make an adjustment.
Although I know our board president has some ideas on approaching legislation. I don't know if you want to share any of your thoughts tonight.
It's very preliminary, but there is some discussion about some legislative changes for hold harmless districts and to basically ban the retroactive penalties that are happening, because, you know, at the risk of sounding like a whining kindergartner, this just isn't fair. You cannot run a business for 11 months and then be told 3 days before school closes you're losing $1.3 million worth of funding that was applied for and granted in good faith. And so there's those kind of things going into play. So from a political standpoint, absolutely there's more to follow. From a procedural standpoint, we're locked into the calendar because the latest chance we have is to notify the city treasurer September 30th of a change for the winter tax collection. And so that's why we would have to have, if we have word from the city, and there'll be increased communication, not that there wasn't before, but there will be increased communication if there are large developments coming into play or tax tribunal cases or what have you that are going to affect this, because again, I think most of us experienced a decline in our property values in our residential. What caused the uptick, as she said, was the industrial tax base. That took a very small, but nonetheless, it was an increase, and that was able to offset the losses from a tax collection standpoint. So, you know, there's a lot of pencils been dulled over the last 3 days.
Well, Sherry, I just want to say that I'm looking, there's a lot of paperwork up here. There's a lot of writing up here. This presentation was nicely put together, but it's a lot of information to take in at one time. And so I just want to find out just the basics. When do you need for us to make a decision? If the board decides to make a decision on that, is one of the main things that I need to know first of all. And then just like I said, it's a lot. And I saw on there it said action on the board behalf, but like I said, this is a lot to take in.
I understand.
This is a lot to take in.
It is a complicated issue, but we have a requirement to provide it to the city by June 15th, and I believe that falls on Sunday, so the 13th is the day
To
that
answer your question, the action would be tonight.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have time between now and Friday.
And this
No,
is
I wanna-
nothing new. Every
No.
June, there's a truth and taxation hearing, so that after the May assessments roll up, so that we know what the tax scenario is, so that the city treasurer can send out the tax bills, which by law have to go out July 1st.
And there's reasons why they allow for a September adjustment if it has to happen. It's for things like that. So, you know, if that makes, I'm not sure if that eases your mind at all, but that's the reason why in September, if you need to change the levy now. You can't really go down after you've levied so much, but we're only levying half of it. So we can make adjustments at that time, which is why the language is built that way.
So what are you asking again?
I mean-
What's the basic, what do you want us to answer?
You
Because I
have-
just saw on there that it just said action.
You have to decide tonight what the levies are going to look like for the community and the, in general, the tax-paying population of Romulus, city of Romulus, tonight.
And that
By law, you have to.
Which is Sherry, that's option, no, that's option 2.
Correct. Yep.
The lower.
Yep. I didn't even provide you the detailed documents for option 1. I guess I was hoping you'd go with option 2.
Okay,
But
so
it-
option 1
Option 1
consists of
it
what
can-
kind of,
the only
how does it
difference-
affect how does it affect the citizens?
it has a
Option one.
higher, taxpayers will pay more money for
Now
homestead
that's
tax.
my language. Just
There
bring
you
it
go.
down. Okay.
All right.
Now the second one says what now?
The second one says, we are going to, let me see if I got it. We will be able, with at-risk funding and the eligibility of that funding for the district, we'll be able to pass some of those revenue dollars that we would normally get from a taxpayer to the state of Michigan through a categorical grant. That's the difference.
So it's lower, but it's lower. Option 2 is lower.
Yeah.
Yeah, option 2 is lower and shifts the tax burden to
Perfect.
the state.
Real
Exactly.
quick, in doing the math, if we went with option 1 for a $120,000 marketable value home, you're talking approximately $160 increase per household.
Yes.
But if you go with option 2, they'd be saving $15.50. There you go. So, hey,
That's
So
almost
Happy
McDonald's.
Right.
Happy Meals.
I mean, the bottom line here is we're trying to keep the tax base in terms of the amount of community person would pay on their property as low as possible. And this right now is a mechanism, a potential mechanism for us to do that.
But it can change at any given
It
time.
can. I cannot guarantee you. I can't preface that enough. I have to tell you, I'm not in control of property tax values, and I'm not in control, I wish I was, of student enrollment. I wish I was, but I'm not.
So if it changes, what would that take us to then? The fact that we might have to go with option 1? Is that what you're saying?
No, it would, no, you could change your levy in September to adjust for any type of changes we know up to that date, or you would be able to adjust 2014. So when we're talking next year at this time, we could make an adjustment. I know it sounds strange, but to this year's tax levy in next year's levy.
sort of like how we
We're doing
were
now.
with the reimbursement of
Yes.
the over levy.
It's the exact same
assessed
concept.
To 0
Mhm.
mills.
Yes, and
And even
there's
if we didn't
reasons it's
use-
written that way.
And even if we didn't use the term over levy, the entire way that formula is set up from get-go, from the time we started assessing hold harmless through this Form 4029, we can adjust up or down up to the maximum allowable approved by our voters. And we've always got that authority, and now our voters have approved a maximum of 5.132, I believe.
Yes.
And, it's anticipated that we'll never get anywhere near that. And again, the administrative recommendation is to not go with a local levy of 4.4, that we leave them, basically, we actually take a small reduction, but to leave the burden with the at-risk funding as long as there's an eligibility period for that. So, I can't stress enough how important that is that we continue to take advantage of those monies and not be too conservative.
I mean, we have every other aspect of qualifying for at-risk funding, free and reduced count, things of that nature. I mean, those funds really belong in a district like Romulus, and if we'd be remiss if we didn't try to capture those. They're there for this particular reason.
Are there any further board member questions?
Was there any documentation that was given to you from the city in regards to this,
In
other
terms-
than
No.
Just
All
you
that they're required to
presenting
do,
here?
all that they are required to do is to provide us their assessed values of taxable values. That's it.
okay?
Do you have one?
The Michigan Department of Treasury and Michigan Department of Ed are really the detail owner, they're owners of the details of these types of calculations.
As far as the remedy that they gave you for us to be able to adjust either in the new tax year or in the winter, is how, will they be sending us like some sort of official letter saying?
That's a good
sometime
question.
we can really-
That's an outstanding question we have for them right now.
Okay.
But I was able to actually speak to someone, so that makes me feel a little bit better.
So
But it will be required in writing.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't want them to give us an answer for this time and then renege the next, if it happens again.
That will, as soon as I get it, you'll know. And I would
Okay.
say it's going to be by a couple days because I'm not going to give them much time to
Okay.
decide.
Okay.
It was their idea.
My fat self has to drive to Lansing. It'll be happening because, and Lansing has requested the same of us. They want confirmation that the board's going to do what we need to do.
Right, okay.
So, you know, that's all in the process.
And why is this happening so quickly? I'm a little confused. Why are we just now finding out about this again?
About which part? About the
About-
at-risk?
About the whole concept of having to get this in a specific time frame.
This is the time of year, typically we do it in a couple weeks with our budget, but in working with the city, we wanted to give them enough time to take these numbers because what they have to do is input them into their system to generate their tax bills. And a few days just wasn't enough for them, because typically we do it at the end
We've
of June.
actually known the truth.
But this is typical.
The hearing was going to be today
Yeah.
since probably February.
This is normal. This happens in June every year.
Also, too, just for the record, one of the things that was revised was our agreement with the city on when we needed to get in our paperwork to them, so they would give our city treasurer ample time to do their paperwork on their end. So that's another thing that has kind of changed our timelines just a little bit.
We want to keep our agreement.
Yeah. That was
Okay,
the
so when
agreement.
was that agreement?
That agreement was at least
That
several months
was,
ago.
that was done either in the fall or in the winter, because that was the same time that we did the updated agreement with the city clerk's office on conducting elections on our
I
behalf.
want to say
or within our-
February.
Yeah, I think it was in February. 'cause
past
that's when
February.
we determined when.
But whether we had that agreement with them to
We
meet the
still
deadline
had
of the
to do
15th,
this.
we still had to
Okay.
do
Yeah,
this.
right.
This is a requirement of us.
Okay.
Any further board member questions? That was going to be the next part. This is a public hearing on the truth in taxation hearing, so if there's anybody from the audience that wishes to address us on that specific issue, now would be the time. If it's on other issues, that would wait until the regular meeting. Before I get into the audience, is there something, Ms. Page, is there something you'd like to say, or you're going to pay our tax bills for us? Or use the microphone, please. Sorry.
State your name and address. You're kidding, right? I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for working with me to update that contract. In order to do my job and do it well, I do need to make sure that those tax bills are arrived in your home July 1st. So once I get those figures, we have to plug that in. We have to send it over to LaserTech. We have to process those bills, make sure that the barcodes and everything are working properly. So it is very important that we get that figure in a timely manner, so thank you.
Thank you. Did anybody from the audience have any comments about the truth in taxation? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Buckley, supported by Mrs. Funderburg. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Public hearing is adjourned at 6:24. Good evening. This regular meeting of the Board of Education is called to order at 6:27 p.m. Mr. Secretary, could you please call roll, please? Ms. Bolt?
Here.
Ms. Kraut?
Here.
Mrs. Funderburg?
Here.
Mrs. Buckley?
Here.
Mrs. Beard?
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin? Present. Mr. Feedy? Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get into the approval of the agenda, I just want to announce for the viewing public and for the audience that may have joined us in progress, we're a little late starting the regular meeting because we had our truth and taxation public hearing that started at 5:45. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Ms. Beard. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is bills for payment. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the bills submitted for payment as presented to the board.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Buckley, supported by, was that Ms.
Funderburg.
Funderburg? Any questions?
May I amend this? I just want to
Yes.
get the total. I should put the
Sure.
total amount. 2.345195.46, which is $2,345,195.46. Right? Okay.
That's right.
I want to make sure we had the amount. Okay.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the field trip proposal for the French Club. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve the field trip to Montreal and Quebec City, Quebec, Canada, at a date to be determined, May to June 2014, for the French Club at Romulus High School as proposed, at no cost to the school district.
Support. Comment.
It's been moved by Mrs. Kraut, supported by Mrs. Beard. We have a board member comment. We also have Ms. Hewlett here that is prepared to speak if we need someone to speak to it. Mrs. Buckley.
I just wanted to say I'm very excited to see that this trip for our students can happen. My only request is that before it happens, I'd like for all the information to come to the board. You know, the chaperones, how many are going to go, what's the total cost, all the information before our passports, everything is in order before they go.
I have a few of the information that you are wondering right here in my card.
Oh, okay.
The only thing I don't have is the chaperone list.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly which students are going.
Okay, I understand.
I think we got
We
that.
have
We
that.
have that.
Actually, we have that packet.
Okay, we do have that. Only thing I'm saying, I just want final numbers, final info before they go, because they are going out of the country, so that's just my concern. So, okay?
So the superintendent will follow up with you and get all the information to the board. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable to me.
I have a question too.
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to the chaperones that I saw, is there a background check on these chaperones? Do you know?
On all the chaperones that go on any field trip from the has to be a background check done.
Right, but I'm saying when they go to the other one, because there's 2 trips in here, correct? There's 2 trips. It's the trip to Canada, and then they have the other trip to here, right, to the France part, right?
Oh, we're not going to France. We're just going to France.
just
This is the one.
Oh,
French Club.
okay, so you're not doing
Going to
that.
Montreal.
class going to Canada.
Okay, because I thought it said Quebec. Okay, now it makes more sense. Okay, and you said you don't know how many students are going?
I have 31 signed interest forms from parents, but I was only able to get the kids that were in my class this try and probably 5 or 6 from last try. But all of my classes knew that I was trying to get them approved, and the majority of them were very excited.
Do you have a release form from each parent already signed?
I couldn't because I needed for
It's too early for that. That'll all have to be
my desk, so
before.
it was just literally school.
All of those documents will be, before she went that far, she wanted to make sure that it was going to be okay. But then all of those documents will be collected and assembled, and we'll make sure that the board is aware of all of these.
So we're approving the trip without having the release forms or
We're
anything from the
approving trip
parents?
So that they can begin
So they
fundraising.
can start to go.
Okay, so then once they get that, is this going to come before us again with that information?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what Mrs. Buckley just asked for.
Okay, so when we get that
The
information,
updated information, the approval to be able to go is
Tonight.
tonight.
Started all the paperwork. We're gonna get.
okay.
So they need to get passports and all that in order.
Oh,
Or if they don't already have it.
They don't need
Oh,
passports.
that's right, they won't need it. Yep.
They don't need passports.
But the chaperones may, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they will follow all district policies regarding.
And they can also go to their hand slices also.
Correct.
Yes. That's on the Canada.
Mm.
Yeah.
I did have one question.
Ms. Funderburg?
In regards to the fundraising, are you setting certain goals for each student to reach as far as fundraising, or is it a collaborative effort for the whole group?
I have each student.
Excuse me, can you come get the mic?
Yeah, so
That's
then that
okay.
way our
Everybody can
viewers
hear
at
you.
home can
That
hear
way
you.
TV land.
And you introduce yourself, because I don't think I've met you.
Hi, I'm Trisha.
I just,
The top button, I think.
Hi. Is it working?
I don't know.
No.
Steve,
There
it's
you go.
American.
Hello.
Bonus.
Okay, I'm Trisha Hewitt, the French teacher at Romulus High School. And can you state your question again? I'm sorry.
I wanted to know, are the students going to have personal fundraising goals, or are you all raising the money as a whole, as a group?
Each student has a specific page that I do, and they get a profit for each fundraising activity that they do.
Okay.
And then they're all self-driven in the fundraising to make their own money. So I'm keeping it very organized, and it's not one giant pot. Now, if we were to do a car wash, it would be split among the people that show up to help with the car wash.
Okay.
It wouldn't be separated between the people who are not there, because I don't think that's very
So
fair.
they'll kind of have like a working account, and then whatever they make fundraising-wise, if there's a difference, they are out, that's out of pocket?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yes, I do. I just want to make sure with the signatures, are you making sure that that it's signed by the parent, or are you having the kids bring the sheets to you? What's the process? How are you going about doing this?
With the interest sheets, I did not, but
Okay.
with actual permission slips, I will be calling home, and there will be parent meetings that they will be kind of expected to show up to, or actual telephone conversation that I will have if they haven't been able to show up.
I think it would probably be in the best interest, because I'm looking at the release form, and at the bottom of it it says, any and all claims, obligations, suits, and any liabilities whatsoever against the organizers, chairpersons, or the school districts are hereby waived and released. So I would think that you would want to make sure that the parent signs that, even if that means actually having a parent bring that in and sign it in front of you, so that you can verify that that's the parent that's signing that information. I don't know how the other board members feel about that, but I think it might even be a good idea to just make sure you cover all bases, even if that meant getting a copy of the driver's license and having that on file, however you all want to go about doing that. Or even, I know it's in regards to some documentations that the different schools have from parents, they even get it notarized. Just, because this is serious, and I just want to make sure that everything is taking place, is taken care of, and that the parents are aware that we are not going to be held responsible for any of this, if there's any kind of negative actions that take place, and just making sure we cross every T and dot every I. So that's what I'm concerned with before that.
Documentations here for
Yeah, I saw that.
behavior compliance, liability release.
Right, but just making sure we get that signed, and that you know who's actually signing it.
They will follow the process, and the only thing that I'll say about responsibility waivers, and if Gary was here, he'd say the same thing. They're not worth the paper they're written on. Parents cannot sign away responsibility or negligence. If we're negligent, if the chaperones are negligent, if the organizers are negligent, the parent can sign all the waivers. We can request them to sign till the moon comes. They can't sign away liability. It just can't happen. It's a safeguard that's in place. There is a process. This isn't the first field trip that the French Club has gone on. Maybe it is under this particular instructor, but they've actually gone to France. They've actually done these things. There is a process in place to verify parent signatures by either direct or telephone contact, because some parents just cannot come into the school when staff is there. So we do make sure that the parent is the one that did document the
I understand that, but she just said to me a few minutes ago that she's going to do a phone call.
That's right.
Okay, and I'm saying to you that I don't think that a phone call is enough in regards to making to this. Right, and I have a...
But that's not our role.
Okay,
That's an
let me
administrative
finish
function.
my thought.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. As I stated, I'm telling you this, ma'am, because me, myself, personally, I've worked in the district myself, and I've dealt with some of the parents from Romulus Community District as a whole in regards to their child. And I'm here to tell you that I want to make sure that there's not going to be any problems. I want to make sure that we cover every single scenario to make sure that the parents are aware of what's going on, because that is very important. I don't want any problems with any other parents in regards to anything that may take place, and I just want to make sure everybody is aware. I do understand that there have been other field trips, but like I said, when I saw this release form, I wanted to make sure and find out what was the procedure that you were taking to make sure that the parent is the one that is signing it, to make sure that everybody is on board and everybody understands what's expected, which is why I asked you about that, because you're the one that's going to be in regards to, getting that whole process started, and then you will probably bring that information over to the superintendent. The superintendent will then let the rest of the board members know from there what's going on. Am I correct? Okay, thank you. So that was my main concept, is just to talk to you about it, to see your process, your thought, because when I looked at it, that's what I saw, and I just wanted to make sure. I know for a fact sometimes you have, some students, they'll sign off on things. So I just wanted to make sure we covered every single aspect of it. And that was my main concern. I wanted to find out in regards to why we were approving something that hadn't been signed by the parents. But now I understand. Thank you, Ms. Buckley, for clearing that up and letting me know that this is something that will be coming back in front of us again once all the information is given. This is just a way of her getting started in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Hewitt? I'm sorry. I would just say, listen to your supervisors. You are not accountable to this Board of Education directly. No individual board member can sit here, myself included, and give you direction.
Nobody gave you a direction. I asked her to talk to the superintendent. You do not do that to me. I don't know who you think you are.
Cut the mic, Steve.
As I said.
No?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Daniels, or Dr. Daniels,
Yes.
why couldn't we take these pertinent documents with the parent's signature and make them notarize it?
Thank you.
That way we have it notarized, and it's simple. The parents have a year to get this done, and there's a notary everywhere. They can stop at City Hall and get it notarized. They live in the city. It's not that hard to stop to get it notarized. If a parent can't take the time to do that, then they don't really care about their kid to send them. So let's get the important documents, for argument's sake, and have a parent notarize them, get them notarized. That way they're attesting that they are the parent or legal guardian. Boom, they got responsibility.
Thank you.
Simple. Can we do that? Can we change our policy if it's not in there like that? I mean, it's not that hard to get it notarized, send 3 documents home, stop at the store and get it notarized.
I'll review and see what we've got going.
Hearing no further
We'll be in
questions,
communication with you.
there is a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is the 2013-14 summer and winter millage levy.
I just noticed you don't.
I don't think we have it. We don't think we do have a topic sheet.
I wrote something out, but it's in the,
That's all right.
hopefully you can read it.
Who would like to make the motion, and I'll pass the topic sheet to you.
Yeah, I'll do it.
This is for the option 2.
Option
Tough
2?
day.
Yes,
Let
I
me read
did.
it first, Sherry, I'll make sure.
You really don't need to pick, you can say option 2 if
Can we
you'd
read
like.
this?
What was that? You could read that.
Yeah,
That would work as well. Long, but
You go ahead. Go ahead.
it's your idea.
Okay, I make a motion that the Board of Education, according to be it resolved by the Board of Education of R096 Romulus Community Schools, 82-130, that there be levied on the homestead taxable property of said district for the summer 2013 for all purposes a tax levy of 10.5319 mills on the state equalized value thereof, and for the winter 2013 for all purposes a tax of 4.5138 mills on the state equalized value thereof, and that there be levied on the non-homestead taxable property of said district for all purposes a summer tax of 18.8750 mills on the state equalized value thereof, and a winter tax of 12.8750 mills on the state equalized value thereof.
Support.
Discussion. It's been moved by Mrs. Funderburg, supported by Mrs. Kraut. I heard Mr. Thede with discussion.
Just to clarify, this was option 2, correct?
That is correct.
I just wanted out there. Thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions?
I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. We can actually do any corrections to this once if this does pass with option 2. Is that correct?
You can make an adjustment in September
In September.
of 2013.
For the winter tax.
That's correct, for winter taxes that go out in December.
Any further questions?
Just a comment that this is for if you have a house of $120,000, you're saving $15, so savings is a savings.
Absolutely, and this district is working always to try
Yes.
and protect the taxpayers.
Thank you, Mrs. Papascos.
There's a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I'm not sure I understand all of the documents that are in front of me.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda is the renewal of food service contract for continuing service. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Education accept the Director of Business and Operations recommendation to renew the contract with Chartwell School Dining Services for the 2013-2014 school year with the following required contractual changes. Equivalent meal factor changed $2.99.25. Current meal factor rate to $3.10 per USDA MDE, which is the Michigan Department of Education guidelines. This represents a 3.6% increase from the previous year. The current management rate fee of $0.422 per meal will increase by 2.5% to the new management fee of $0.0432 per meal. The current administrative fee of $5,923 per month will increase by 2.5% to the new administrative fee of $6,071 per month. The advance pay of $90,000 remains the same. The current CPI-U for December is 2.5%. There are no guarantees for the 2013-2014 school year, and there is no client investment planned for the 2013-2014 school year. The rationale is utilize the services of Chartwell School Dining Services for the 2013-2014 school year for continuity of service through the summer months.
Support.
Discussion. Moved by Ms. Buckley, by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Ms. Buckley. I heard at least one board member with discussion. Mr. Thede?
Yeah, is Chartwell's responsible for picking the menu?
They do, yes.
And what policy is it that if a child is behind on payments for like the food, they get a friggin' cheese sandwich instead of a lunch? Now, if we're promoting healthy lunch, they get one slice of cheese on a slice of bread, and it's embarrassing. I've seen kids throw it away because they're embarrassed because they know when they get the sandwich that they've not paid, and it's embarrassment with the other kids. And if they're promoting healthy food, why are they giving a cheese sandwich to a kid who didn't pay? We should be taking out on the parents, not the kid. And have we remedied the thing about the portions? Because I don't know if it's our staff or Chartwell's, but my kid and every other kid that's in that class, they're rationing the portions, yet we're paying the same amount of money for that food, and the bigger kids get a bigger portion, and the little kids are still hungry, and they're not being able to get a second meal. Now, as a parent, if I'm paying more, and my kid's getting rationed, and they're getting the same amount from another kid, and they're getting more food, that's ridiculous. So I want to know, one, who's giving a cheese sandwich to a kid, and one, we're embarrassing the kid, they're throwing it away, and they're not eating, and they're going to go back to class starving.
So that is a procedure that the district currently is in charge of. That is not something of Chartwell's nature.
Well, we better change the policy.
So that would be something at the board's pleasure. They want to. The problem that we have, as you know, we at sometimes can have between $5,000 and $9,000 worth of revenue where students are not paying for their lunches.
Then we need to take it out on the parents,
We have,
not the
and
kids.
that could be a suggestion. I'm not sure what mechanism we would use. Our hope is that a child would get sick of eating a cheese sandwich and the parent would actually,
You may not even get back to the parent.
well, they get statements. Those parents get
Then
statements.
let's get peanut butter and jelly or something
Well,
healthy.
there's food allergies, so
Well,
that
all right,
leads
not
to an
peanut butter and jelly,
issue.
but something more than a cheese sandwich with one slice of cheese and
So,
a piece of bread is
again,
ridiculous.
that is a district procedure. So if that's something you want to look at, we can look at it. I'm
Yeah,
not
Yes,
sure.
I do.
Is it possible that maybe over the summer, we could maybe have maybe like a study session
Yeah.
maybe even before school is out, let the administrators know if we could have some of their PTCs, PTAs come and kind of give us some input on those.
Kathy, you happen to be here tonight. I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't know if you have any comments about that, or I know that we're not alone. Other districts around us. I know we don't have to be like everyone else,
We're
but
the
other
St. Garden
districts
City,
around
this ain't
us.
Westland, this ain't Livonia, this is our kids in the school.
Do you have
Now,
any other
another question,
comments?
who rashes the portions? Who's that up to?
I am
Is
going to
our
leave that
staff?
one up to you, Kathy, because we've had
Yeah,
this
we've had that
discussion.
discussion.
Yes,
And we-
if you're aware, I'd like to
excuse
speak
the-
to
can
you
you get
personally about that because
She needs the mic.
We need to use the mic, Kathy.
Kathy,
please.
can you grab the mic? Sorry.
That's okay.
I know this question was addressed,
we asked it
actually,
once
maybe
before.
6 months ago, John, and I know Kathy looked into it.
Well, I know I also addressed
Okay.
it with her, and,
Is it on?
Top, it should be the top switch.
and we were speaking to
Yes.
that issue.
Hello? We got it. All right. Yes, we have talked about that issue, and I believe what school it'd be happening at. Portion sizes are important, and all the children who are in a school should be getting the same portion size. If that ever happens,
It has
that,
happened.
okay, it has
More than
happened
once.
recently?
When's the last time I contacted you about it? Within a month? It was about a
Because
month.
I've addressed
Because
the
I've
person
addressed
who's
3
doing it
times,
because
2 with the former superintendent and 1 with Dr. Daniels.
One was
And
with
after,
me.
and after the first time, it shouldn't have came a
you
second
shouldn't have
time.
become a second time, no.
After you spoke with me,
That's not my
I
policy.
immediately, got in contact, and
Yes.
and Ms. Norwood was
We're more than,
Immediately.
we're more than willing to give enough food to the school to supply all the children with the correct portions, and it's our job to see that all the students in that school are getting the same size portions. And, if that comes up, I'll give you my number and you can call me and I will
I won't go
directly.
through you. I will go through the
Absol-
superintendent the way it should be done.
Yes.
But if I'm in there again and it happens, I'm going to be mad again. It's
Mhm.
not right. If
You're
I'm
correct.
paying
It's not right.
something for my kid, or someone else is paying something for their kid, they should get the same portion. I don't care a 7-year-old versus a 9-year-old. They can
Absolutely.
eat more than a 10-year-old. They shouldn't be rationed, and it shouldn't be funny. And I've seen the kids go in there because I've worked the cafeteria. We shouldn't see kids trying to go get a second helping because they got a half a scoop where someone else got a bigger scoop.
Yeah, everybody should get the same portion.
Then it didn't happen. I'm telling you,
Mhm.
you're
I
telling
believe
me that it should happen, but it's not happened. I've complained 3 times, so don't sit here and tell me it shouldn't happen. If you're running that cafeteria, it should not happen. Point blank. I shouldn't have had to complain 3 times. The 3 different situations.
I know that when you addressed it with me, I know Kathy looked into it. So it's a matter of
I understand.
maybe instructing employees that are serving, reiterating the amounts that they're supposed to be giving, and we can do that again as part of a
and spot checking
professional
also.
development.
And that was one of the things I know started happening, trying to do those spot checks on that to make sure.
I do have a question, and I kind of made reference to it. If the child is still hungry, can they go back and get a second helping?
If they are given the
Or are
correct
they-
size portions, then they cannot get second helpings because they've gotten the original size portion.
Then how do you
that
know the
fits
kid
in
didn't get a correct size portion? Because and since I was there, the kid they got to get a correct size portion. Went back, tried to get more food, and they said, no, you're done. So how do you determine who gets a correct size portion?
Yeah, that's true.
They're given production sheets, all my staff, and they should follow them. And I've talked to that employee, and, I don't know if you've been talked to since, we took care of it. And if it comes up
I
again.
haven't. This is the first time since that was been several months ago, John.
Like I said, 3 different instances I brought up their superintendents. Twice with Mr. Weiss, once with Mr. Daniels. It shouldn't happen, but it did 3 times. 3 different days.
Okay.
You want me to tell you the school? Or do you know
I
what
know
school I'm
the school.
talking to? Okay.
I know the school, and I know the
Alright.
person involved.
And who's that? Are you trying to
I
refer
would-
something?
no.
No.
Okay, good. I'm done.
In regards to this contract, I think I gave you a call and I asked you, did you have, would you be able to give me?
I have one. I do
you
not
do have
have
the
it. I
contract?
have one. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay,
But I'd be more than glad after the meeting if you want to go back. I know it may not be timely because you're voting right now, but I do have one. And it's all spelled out in the contract.
okay.
We probably have one actually in the board minutes from several years ago.
Right. I was just gonna ask the board, if you don't mind, I don't know if this is something you all will agree on or not, but since this was done, it was a contract that was put into place 4 years ago. I just got on here. I'm not sure what took place in that contract versus what's being asked now. I would like to have that opportunity to look over that information. So I don't know if that's something that can happen, but I'm asking if you all could be willing to table this for until I have that opportunity to look over that information.
I mean, they'd like it as soon as possible. It would be, I think we could do it on the 24th meeting if we had to. As long as it's done prior to the 30th, because at that point, we don't have a renewal with Chartwells per the State of Michigan Department of Ed, which is what they require.
And I was also going to ask that same question in regard to the EDU staff. I see the EDU staffing one, but the PCMI one as well too. So I don't know if that's something that's possible, but if so, I would like to have that opportunity to look over that information. Because I did see in there that it did say on the one for, I think it's the EDU, or the, it
EDU
said,
staff.
yes, it's the one that said it was a $25,000 savings. But like I said, I would like to have the opportunity to look over the contract and see what has happened, so to bring me up to speed as to what's going on, if that's okay.
The old contract? No, the old
Sherry, do
contract.
we have a, is there
They
a
have
problem?
everything they need.
Is there a problem if we did this?
With Chartwells, I think we can probably wait to the 24th. It's pushing it. I'm going to be honest with you. The EDU staff, I'm a little bit more nervous about, only because we really want to get this new contract with them implemented as soon as possible, because we'd like to run our summer programs through the new vendor to have to experience the savings. So that one, I'm not so sure. I mean, I'd be more than happy to. Basically, the only differences in the contracts are the rates. Right now, we paid 17% for a substitute, and we can talk about this as we get closer to that agenda item if you'd like. I don't know what the board's
That's
pleasure
fine.
is.
I just,
Okay.
I normally, I like to have stuff in writing. That's just the way I like to have all my documents in front of me. So that's the reason why I brought that up, since I was actually talking about the previous one. I wanted to let you know ahead of time that that was my concern with the other one as well.
What is the board's pleasure? Do you want this item postponed? If so, we would need to rescind the motion.
Can I ask one question first?
Sure.
I know, yeah, I can understand that the prices for the food has to go up, groceries are going up, but we've asked all of our people to take concessions, and I see that the administrative fee is a 2.5% increase. Is there any way to negotiate a change
Okay,
there?
let me tell you where we are with that. So we have a contract right now. We're going into the 4th year with Chartwells. Due to the fact that the board has instructed the administration to seek bids for food service employees through a private source, we are required by the state of Michigan to go out to bid for that. We will not have that bid process completed until this August, due to the fact that there's a lot of back and forth language and review and documentation from the MDE. It's the only bid where the state of Michigan has their hands on it at every given moment. They tell us exactly how to write it, they tell us exactly what it should look like, and they have to approve. Whoever you choose has to actually end up going up to the state, they review it and bring it back. So basically what I'm telling you is we won't know until August. We need something to get us through July and August, the middle of August. Otherwise, we have no contract. And this is, again, I can't say it enough, is required by the state of Michigan. We didn't put this agenda item on there because we wanted to. What happens is the state of Michigan requires us to send the renewal information up to the state. They review it with the contract that they have of ours, that they saw and had a hand on 4 months or 4 years ago, to make sure that we're following the contract and that the food service management company that we're dealing with is not trying to increase prices that are above and beyond what we agreed to in the contract 4 years ago.
Speaking to that point, Sherry, the administrative fee, just so everyone's clear, that's not going to a person. That's the fee the company charges to administer the contract and the program. But the 2.5% figure, that's directly tied in the contract to the annual CPI.
Correct. Take
Consumer
away,
Price
I think,
Index.
consumer price
So
index.
that's why the
take away
next
food.
line item, or 2 line items down, tells you what the CPI is 2.5%. The contract already gives them that increase.
All of that
Did I
language is
explain
built
that
in the
right?
Sorry, Mr. McLaughlin. That language was built in the contract 4 years ago. We're just abiding by the contract.
And it doesn't come up for renewal until,
We could have, this renewal could actually go through next year if we wanted it to, but because we are looking at other avenues with food services, we put out a full bid to include the privatization of employees for this group and one to not include them, in case the board's pleasure is not to do that. It won't be here till August.
Any other questions? Hearing none?
Do we have a motion
so
to
we
rescind
tabling
it?
it?
Or-
Well, that's what I was going to go for, is do we want to postpone decision on this? I don't want to use the word table, because once it's tabled, it dies
No,
by
it can't.
parliamentary procedure. But if we want to postpone the vote, then we can have the maker and the seconder of the motion rescind the motion, and we could pull it from the agenda and add it to the 24th. Is that the board's pleasure? We just need a consensus. We don't need to vote.
I'll support the maker.
So you,
I don't have an issue with it.
to kicking it
If
to
it's
the
not-
24th?
if Sherry's okay with it, I don't.
Okay.
And I can't stress enough that the Michigan Department of Ed has had their hand on this
for 4 years.
for
Well,
4 years.
then Let the record show that the motion on the floor has been rescinded, and the superintendent is directed to put this on this June 24th agenda, please.
Ms. Norris?
Next item on the agenda is the EduStaff Master Agreement. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the Director of Business and Operations and approve the master agreement with EduStaff as presented. Support. Discussion.
It's been moved by Ms. Buckley, supported by Ms. Funderburg. Discussion, Ms. Buckley?
I heard Ms. Cole's concern. I wouldn't have an issue with it if Sherry, since she's our business person, that we need to have this in place. So,
My recommendation would
that
be
the only
to
reason
approve
I
it
would
tonight.
not
That's
want to do
understandable.
that.
That's understandable. That's understandable.
you.
Okay. So
That's fine.
I just want to discussion.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
understand.
There's no things to say, yeah, I guess, I don't remember, like a substitute paraprofessional, are they still gonna make the same wage?
Yes.
But the
The-
management firm will take. less.
Correct. Let me give you an example. Right now, with our current vendor, we pay 17% on top of whatever that hourly wage is. With the new vendor, it's 16.5. Let me give you a better example. Substitutes, or excuse me, coaches that are getting paid through this mechanism, currently we pay, I think it's either 18.5% or 20%, and they're bringing it down to 14.5%. So there are real savings here, a minimal $25,000 annually. And the transitions should be quite smooth. It'll be a software program that they log into as they do now.
So the
There
same
was
people that are substituting now can
That's
substitute for the
correct.
new firm?
Absolutely.
But you were saying, because I called you and had a talk with you in regards to this afternoon, the employees that are currently now with PCMI will have to reapply to EduStaff, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
And then as far as their criminal check backgrounds, will they have to take those over, or are they required?
They're being transferred over.
Okay.
Now, if someone new were to come in, we would require them to start the process from the very beginning and be
Yes.
fingerprinted and things of that nature.
So pretty much the only thing that is changing for us is the company that we're using?
And lower rates.
Okay, and lower rates.
The check will be written to someone else and it'll be lower than it is now.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up is, I had some of the same questions about, are our employees going to have to go through the fingerprinting and, those expenses?
Right.
Again, and that's, this company agreed to grandfather them in. They'll still have to reapply per se, but at least their background checks and all those things, the fingerprinting fees, Another thing that jumped out at me here, and I confirmed this with Sherry, right now, under our current vendor, if there's a payroll adjustment that needs to be made and a separate check has to be written to an employee, they charge us an outrageous amount of money to do that. This company charges nothing.
And we made them write that in their contract.
Yes. So that's a huge savings there. Ms. Bowles, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Actually, Sherry, I just want to find out, I know I looked at the back and it says coaching services as well too, right? Okay, I would like to find out if, not saying that's what's going to happen, but if we were to go to do the pay to play, how would this affect that?
It wouldn't affect it at all.
Okay, so
Pay to play would be revenue on the budget. This is an expense.
okay, and do you or anyone on the board looked into any different corporations to sponsor kids that may not be able to afford to do the pay to play, if that's something that we go into?
I think I don't know if I can speak now, but I was directed by the Board of Education to look at actually cutting the expenditures of the athletic budget as opposed to creating a pay-to-play system.
Yes.
And I've been working on that with the athletic director, and we actually have a plan in place that will be presented to you on the
Okay.
24th.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Any further questions? Hearing none, motion on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I'm abstaining since I don't have the PCMI contract.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is the superintendent's contract. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Education approve the contract as presented to employ Dr. Paula Daniels as superintendent of the Romulus Community Schools. Support.
Been moved by Mrs. Buckley, supported by Mrs. Beard. Are there any questions?
Questions?
Ms. Bowles?
Looking at the contract, I'm looking at the first page in regards, I think my thing with it is a little bit more in how it's written in certain sections. I don't know who would be responsible for that part of it, but I'm looking at the responsibility of the superintendent area, and the second to, or let me see, probably the second to the last line, where it says that, however, that the superintendent may, with prior approval of the board president, undertake consultation work, speaking engagements, writing, lecturing, or other professional duties and obligations. The way it was worded to me made it seem as if it seemed like it was more of a responsibility of the board president, and I thought that you are employed by the board as a whole. So I thought it would have been better if it was worded a little differently in that area. And then I also looked at the back of the contract as well too, and in the business expenses area, it also said the same thing, State of Michigan, which are approved by the president of the Board of Education. So I was just, that's in the business expenses section where it says 5 at. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention.
Just so that you're aware, those are standard wording that's been in all of the contracts for superintendent, because before the superintendent is absent from the school district, she at least needs to notify. She doesn't get the permission of, she has the notification of the president of the Board of Education, and it's whoever that person is, it's their responsibility to communicate with the board that, you know, Dr. Daniels will be out of town on a conference from such and such day to such and such day.
Right, I understand that, but it's the way it's written that is a little bit confusing to
I
me.
can appreciate that, and we could have further addressed this had you contacted us when you got the document.
I just got this
Thursday.
document just this past Thursday.
That's right.
And when I got the document and I looked over it, that's why I'm bringing it to the attention now of everybody here, so everybody can be aware of it. Please keep in mind that I do have this document that was given to me, a code of ethical relationship that states 10.30, the board as a legal policy making body delegates executive responsibility to the superintendent. Also 10.40 says the board recognizes the authority to act resides within the entire Board of Education. So that's the reason why I brought this up, because the way it's written is incorrect. I'm not saying that the statement behind the meaning behind it is. I'm saying that the way it was written is incorrect. I wanted to make it known to the board as a whole, because if you turn around on the last page, it says board approval. So if you're going to write a contract, you need to be consistent in every step that you make. Since I am here with the board, I'm in front of all the board members, including the superintendent, and the administration. I was bringing that up, making sure that that is made aware of, so that some changes can be made on the document itself before we actually approve it. Not to say there's anything wrong within the contract itself, but the language of the contract is incorrect. That was my point for bringing it to you all. And I just want to make sure you all are aware of that.
And my point for bringing it up is that when it was sent to board members Thursday, there was no contact made. The board attorney is who drafted this contract. No one contacted myself nor the superintendent, or to my knowledge any other member of the board, to say that there was a concern about it, and it has clearly been on the agenda as an action item tonight.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I just wanted to let Ms. Bowles know, in regards to the speaking engagements, writing, lecturing, it's always been past practice that the superintendent has a discussion with the board as a whole.
Right.
In regards to that, it's just.
I agree, but it's the way it was written. And like I said before, I did receive the packet, but as you all know, we all don't look at our packages at the same time. When I looked at the information, I had enough time to study it. I wanted to make sure I brought it up to the table before we were able to vote on it. And that was my main concern. So that's the reason why I'm bringing it to you now. And I also saw in there that it stated, since we're talking about this, now rereading it again, it says on here, undertake consultation work. What exactly is consultation work? Can you go specifically with me, anybody here, and kind of give me in detail what that consists of? Because I want to make sure that I have a understanding of what the agreement is. Keep in mind that the last contract that you had with the prior superintendent, I was not aware of. But I am aware of this one, and I'm looking through this one now, and I'm trying to make sure that the language is correct.
I mean, I look at that whole paragraph, I mean, I don't know if this clarifies it, but when it says that the superintendent will not accept employment other than our district, however, with the board president, to take all these other things, to me, would take her away, or him out of our district. So I would hope a board president wouldn't allow any of this anyways, because this, again, take the superintendent out of our district.
Consultation could mean serving on a committee. Yeah. Consultation can mean a lot of things.
Exactly, that's why I asked for detail.
Well, speaking engagement could be like when you spoke at your chamber.
Exactly.
You know, things like that too. Or even superintendent conferences.
Right. Lecturing. You know, so, I mean.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Buck.
Before you move forward, I think it's important to me. One of the things that our community charged us with was negotiating a contract that brought us savings. And just real quick, our previous superintendent was at $157,399, and this particular contract is $126,900. So we have a savings of $30,499. And so I just wanted to make note of that, because that definitely was one of the things that we heard loud and clear from our community, is that we needed to cut from the top, and it's been done.
There's also, to add to that, Ms. Funderburg, there's also the change that was made in the superintendent's benefits and compensation, in that prior superintendents have been able to bank and or sell back their vacation days. This contract calls for the use it or use it clause with vacation. So she either would need to use her vacation or she would lose. There's no option for her to sell back those days. So that in and of itself could be about $12,000. So I think those are important things to notice.
And also, I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Daniels, for working with us as a board to, take into consideration the concerns that our community had. She was very gracious, and I mean, she went into it with the thought of, you know what, I'm doing this for the kids, and so I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
I echo that as well.
So I'm trying to find out, board members, is it possible that we can rearrange the changing of that word frame right there in regards to that? As far as the amount and all of that, I don't have a problem with any of that, but I do think the terminology in regards to that area is incorrect, and it does need to be changed a little bit. Because it is the approval of the board as a whole, not the board president. Even though the board president is a part of the board, just the way it's written is incorrect. So I'm trying to find out, is there a way that maybe we can have that part
It would be subject to negotiation that the board attorney, I just caution the board.
Well, that was
the
my
board
thing,
attorney
right?
would have to review it, and we need to have a superintendent in place July 1. So it's the board's pleasure.
I going on past practices, I think it's fine as is. That's just my opinion. I know that it's a concern for Ms. Bowles.
It is a very big concern for me personally, because I think past practices might be in what got us in some of the situations that we're in. And I think it's important for us when we find mistakes, not even that it's a mistake, it's just the way that it was written. You should be willing to look at it and say, if there's some changes that needs to be made and it can be looked at in a different way other than what it is that we intended for it to say, then that's what we should do as a board. But like I said, it is the pleasure of the board as a whole of what you all decide.
Well, I guess to me, it's what we can come to an agreement as a board, the consensus of the board, but I know that if the issue is just the one word, is the president.
It's not just the one word, it's the sentence and how it's written. It says, like I said, the superintendent may, with prior approval of the board president, undertake, not with prior approval of the Board of Education, because the board president is part of us.
Right.
So, and I'm looking at that, and then I'm turning around and I took the initiative to bring up the section 1000 bylaws, board bylaws, that tells the president's duties. Everything has to line up, is what I'm saying. And when I looked at the duties of the president, the duties of the vice president, and all of that, as well as what's written by that statement is not exactly a part of what the duties and responsibilities are within that section of the board president. Then I took the initiative, like I said, and looked at the back of the contract and said board approval. So my thing of it is, I'm just trying to make sure everything lines up. It's the main concept. Is to make sure that we say what we mean what we say, and that it's in writing so that it's not left out there and open for somebody else to interpret in a different manner.
Yeah, and I think that, I guess since a lawyer wrote this, we could probably change everything in here because, he is our lawyer, so he's doing the best to represent us. But to me, whoever our board president is, we elect him as that president to be able to make, when we can't all be together to make that decision, that he will represent the board as a whole. Not saying that we can't make that decision,
autonomy, but
that he's our board president. And to me, I think as a board president, they would be able to make capable of making this particular decision.
If that's the case, then they wouldn't need us. They would only need the board president.
That's not true.
Because it says...
That's just in this particular instance.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying in this particular instance. I'm looking at the duties that you have written down here. President presides at all meetings of the board. President represents the district and speaks for it in a public function. Okay, we all know that. Causing the action to be prosecuted in the name of the district on the treasurer's bond. Appointed, I'm just reading parts of it, let me make that clear. Appointed to the committees of the board, both the chairpersons and the members. Looking at just that alone is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, as a new board member, coming in here looking at facts, not looking at what's been going on, not looking at what it could mean, but looking at what is written. is what I'm saying. And as a new person coming in, looking at what is written, what I'm saying is that it's not adding up. And if we have a chance to change it, we should do just that. It's not changing anything else on there. But if that's a problem and it's not clear to me as a board member, how many other people would it not be clear to? And that's my concern. And of course, I know that we do have a lawyer look over it. But some things, if you don't bring it to the lawyer's attention, and as you said, it's been in previous things like this as well. Well, now it's being brought to the attention of the board. So then it's back in the board's pleasure again. What has the board decided to do about it as a whole?
Okay. Well, I guess I would just say that I understand what you're saying, but to me, this type of responsibility, I feel our board president can handle, whether it be whoever it might be, because whoever, that if they're in that chair, they can make this particular decision. Just these two things. I mean, to me, I don't have an issue with it. So,
Okay.
That's just me.
Okay. Well,
But, I mean, we agree to disagree.
yeah, we do.
It's a motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. Welcome. Thank you, Dr. Daniels. Next item on the agenda is a budget update. Yay.
Yeah.
You're back on.
We have two pieces of information. One has to do with just a budget staff analysis that we have for you tonight, and the other one I don't really have anything formally to provide to you, but I would like to go over some numbers. So if we could do the staff analysis first and then move on to the bigger piece.
Sure. I'll do this one since I was asked. So, oh, thank you. Oh, sure you can. So a board member came and asked me for this information, and in discussing it, they said, you know, the board member said, you can give it to me, or maybe the whole board would be interested in having this information. So we just decided to toss it out for the whole board for consideration for information.
You need a mic.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably need a mic.
Oh, thank you.
I think there's an extra.
Did everybody hear? So what was asked of me was, what is the budget that we have in this school district for staffing? And that's a big question. So what we did is we put together the 12-13 Romulus Community Schools staff budget analysis. Go ahead and click for me. What I want to tell you what this does show is this shows the budgeted amounts for 2012-13 for all Romulus Community School employees. It includes wage, FICA, retirement, health, and fringe benefits. Okay, go to the next slide for me. What this budget analysis doesn't show you, this does not show you overtime costs, substitute pay for absences, longevity payouts, COLA payouts, severance payouts, sick day buyback options, Schedule B stipends, pay for extra duty and assignments. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, because as we roll forward and Sherry shares more budget information with you,
Rebecca,
you know, I don't want you to...
I'm sorry. Can you please define Schedule B stipends?
Schedule B are things like all the coaches,
Thank you.
athletic coaches, as well as instructional stipends, such as school improvement committees, department heads, things like that. Class advisors, anything above and beyond a regular salary or hourly amount for a Romulus Community Schools employee.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. This is painful to look at, and I'm so sorry, because there are so many groups that I was asked to separate it by. Hopefully the piece of paper in front of you, you can read this a little bit better. I broke it down in two ways. I wanted to show you percentage-wise of the whole pot of money, and then the second page is the actual dollar amounts. So as you can see, the REA instructional day, that's 65% of this budget that we're talking about, which should not come as a surprise. That's our largest bargaining unit.
And those are our teachers.
Those are our teachers.
Okay.
The next one, moving to the left and up, it's kind of dark on this screen. It says RAZA. Those are all building principals. So that's RAZA and anybody who is a building principal. That's 6%. Central office administration, that's your superintendent, Sherry, myself, Don, transportation.
Special ed.
Nope,
No.
that
No,
person's
that's
in
in
Raza.
special
Yep.
services.
That's 3%. Our local 64 video, I put that in there for the man in the booth. Because I know he's laughing.
It's a 0.
It is a 0% because it's so small, I'm so sorry. We love you though. Our local 64 safety monitors are 2% of our operating budget for staffing. Our food service is 2%. That's our employees, not Chartwell's, not the fee that we pay and not Mrs. Norris. Our transportation is 7%. Our custodial and maintenance is 6%. Our secretary and support, our local 64 secretary and support, that includes board office secretaries that fall under local 64, that's 4%. Our GSRP program is 1%. Our para-media tech support, so these are our paraprofessionals that are only for our tech support. Our network specialists, our media techs, that's 1%. Our paras that are instructional support, that's 2%. And then our central office non-union support, that would be like the Mrs. Bosidis at the end of the table. My assistant as well, that's 1%. If you flip to the next page, this actually gives you the dollar amounts. So that would attach back to the pie chart that I showed you. So you can see our total is all the way at the far right. It's $29,643,403.28. But again, I got to remind you that third slide that I showed you, or the second slide, it doesn't include a whole lot of other things that we pay. This is salary, FICA, benefits, and retirement. Any questions?
Thank you for compiling this work.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, 3%.
Okay, moving on. Again, I'm sorry I don't have a formal document to provide to you, but I just wanted to give you an update narrative because we still have a little work to do. But I've been a little busy the last 3 days or 4 days. So what I wanted to discuss with you tonight is, we have 2 weeks from today, the board will be adopting their 2013-2014 budget. And we've come a long way in terms of, where we were at financially a month, 2 months, 3 months ago. Over the course of 2 to 3 months, we've saved over $4.5 million predominantly from employee concessions. There's a few dollars in relation to cuts in the athletic department, which we talked a little bit about earlier. It came out a little bit earlier. And but what I wanted to present to you tonight is where we stand right now, and to give you information with the most up-to-date state aid information that I have, where we sit. And I'm going to talk to you about 2 different areas, okay? One is what the proposed budget looks like if we have stable enrollment, and I know typically we talk about a reduction in enrollment, and I'll give you that scenario as well. And it also includes the sale of all properties. So if you remember, this budget this year included the sale of property. We actually sold 1 piece of property, so we're on our way. But I have removed those pieces of property from the revenue of the 12-13 budget, and now have transitioned them as a hopeful expectation that we will sell those buildings in the land in 13-14. Okay?
Just for the record, which property is that?
That property was on Smith Road. It was a vacant piece of property in an industrial type of situation.
The old board near school.
Yes. Okay, so if we were to look at the budget right now, and for next year with stable enrollment and the sale of our properties, we would still have a deficit of about $1.8 million. Okay? Let me give you the good news about this, though. The good news is that let me start over in terms of what type of debt we're bringing into the year. This year, by removing the sale of those properties, except for the one that we did sell, we're looking at a deficit of $2.7 million. It's right in line with what I've been telling you. I've been saying all along, we knew we had an $800,000 problem, but if we didn't sell the property, we were going to have to add another $2 million. Well, as things progress over the months, and it'll get a little bit better in the next few weeks, but nothing to save the day as the budget closes out and things are spent. We typically end up with about $100,000 to $150,000 less of expenditures than I expect. But let's say right now we're moving into next year with a $2.7 million deficit. Okay, that should not be a surprise to anyone. Taking that into consideration, we'd be bringing in, again, stable enrollment, sale of all properties that are left to be sold, $32,761,000. But due to the concessions and all the other things that we put into place in terms of reduction, we're only spending $31,854,000. So the good news is, in this particular year, if you were to take out our problem that we started with a fund balance deficit, we'd actually be $1 million to the good. That just proves the efforts on the Board of Education and the district employees that we want to solve this problem. Okay, so we're definitely headed in the right direction. Let's move on to what it looks like if we lose students, because unfortunately that's been our reality in the last several years, and if we didn't look at that and talk about that, we wouldn't be doing ourselves any justice in terms of creating a budget. So if we reduce the student enrollment by about 200 FTEs, we would actually be closer to about $3 million in deficit. The value of that 200 students is about $1.5 million. And again, there's a few other categoricals that have been affected. Although you hear in the news that we're receiving $30 additional per student in our state aid, be reminded that over $50 is being taken away from the MIPSERS offset that we're currently experiencing. Right now we're getting about $452,000. Next year we will only get 200 and some thousand. So I want it to be clear to those in the audience. It sounds like we're getting an increase. We are not getting an increase. As a matter of fact, when the net calculations are done, we're losing a little bit. Okay? So, in 2 weeks, we have a little bit of work to do. I guess one of the big questions for the Board of Education between now and then is, how do we want to look at the enrollment projections? Again, we've always factored in a 200 student loss, something that we need to talk about.
Now, wasn't it a little bit more this time around?
It was 275.
The fall count to fall count was 341.
Right. Now, I know a couple months ago we discussed what the February count was, the supplemental count, and that actually was going up.
Okay.
And then those are the numbers that I used in my calculations as a starting point.
No, Sherry, I think our early college will help these numbers.
We hope. We have a $250 line item expense for that program right now. I don't have increased enrollment based on that because it would be projected. That is something we could discuss, though. Absolutely, it's probably something we should discuss. Is what's a reasonable amount of FTEs to expect in terms of that program. So definitely, that's something that we need to talk about.
How many are currently enrolled in that right now?
So let me talk to that because we do have the final numbers. We have 34 students that are enrolled. They are not school of choice students. We were behind the ball on that. Getting this program to market as quickly as we did, we were still behind the ball as far as being able to get and market to those families. We did the best we could behind the timeline. We do project, we're anticipating, a full court press on marketing going into next year for the following school recruitment of school of choice students. And obviously we are continuing to market at this point. But right now, I don't think that it would serve the purpose of budgeting to plan on any early college enrollments for this school year.
You know what?
We're on our way, though.
FTEs with the college?
No.
No.
The entire FTEs?
Yeah.
I guess my question is, it's very hard to compete. I know I got almost every day I'm getting something from Huron and Wayne, some kind of academy, these beautiful flyers that we just don't have the money to do.
But we've got some that are coming out.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they have been completed. We've also got some that are going in. I know we've got one that's going to be in the next telegram. But yeah, we've gotten it all. We've had to approve all of the different, elementary, secondary, all of those. It's all been approved, so now they'll be starting to go out.
Okay.
I have a question of legality. Rudgate. I know those kids were sent to Wayne Westland. What is is there a way that we can contact them? They have a clubhouse this summer. Can't we make a comparison between what Wayne Westland has versus Romulus? We have this early college coming up. We had $7 million in scholarships. Why can't we try to steal some of these kids out of Rudgate now and get them to Romulus schools? I mean, why can't we talk to that community over there? They have a clubhouse. maybe set up a meeting for people who have elementary age kids, and then middle school age kids, and then high school age kids on separate nights. Get those parents in there, say, this is what we can offer you. If we gotta bring a bus in that, if we can get 30 middle school kids and 15 elementary, that'd be worth getting a bus route in there in high school. And what about sending these flyers over to the south part of town where those were released to Woodhaven schools, and in that subdivision of ours, why can't we send flyers into that home? And do we have, like, Steve in a booth, or do we have anybody that can make a TV commercial with this? Because I've seen a lot of TV
We're
commercials
working on,
from
we got
area school
that,
districts.
that's under
That needs to run on
operation too.
TV, not just Romulus cable. It needs to run on, if somebody's watching, you know, WB20, we need to air these TV commercials on this, on what we can offer now.
And we've also been having some conversation with some radio stations
Okay.
also.
And also, how about Summit and Heritage Schools? How can we get those Romulus kids out of there? Can we get flyers? Is there a way we can get a mailing address for those people?
That's what you're doing.
And get those flyers out to that and say, here's what we're offering?
That's what Blastus is doing. They're working with, and they're making targeted mailings based on each group.
And in the Rudgate thing, I think, I mean, there's a lot of kids in that.
Yeah, the Rudgate, we'll see what
If we can get them to give us a couple of meeting nights, get flyers in those mailboxes there, and ask those people to come and say, this is what we can offer you.
I mean,
And
I think that'd be
I
a good
think
thing
the
for
key-
some of us to participate.
Yeah.
And I think the trick with Rudgate, really, it's not really a
Especially
trick.
you.
It is transportation.
Hey,
It is.
if we get enough students, it's worth having a bus route
Without
through
a
there.
doubt.
And like I said, well, I'm sure we can get them home faster than, I'm sure Wayne and Westland's the last stop for them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Wayne and Westland drops all their kids off first before Rudgate gets dropped off, so this could be a convenient for the parent also, so.
And just FYI, they've changed their management. They're no longer
Yes, they're not Rudgate anymore, I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we need to find out who they are now.
But they have a beautiful clubhouse, and I'm sure.
One of the things that I mentioned to Dr. Daniels, and I know that we're kind of we've kind of parked at the early college program, but is there a way that we could maybe work in something for the 9th and the 10th grade as part of the requirement for the early college? Because what I almost see happening is that they're not with us the 9th and 10th grade, and then when their junior year comes, that's when we get them. And if there's something that we could work in that is like part of that program that they would have to have
Yeah, that's
from
part
us.
of the plan.
Yeah, part of the curriculum, so that, you know, we're guaranteed that student for the 5 years.
Yeah, that's
And
actually going to be part of the sales pitch.
Yeah, that's part of the whole sales pitch, is to
Okay.
get students in at as, you know, as early as we possibly can, but certainly by the 9th grade.
Yeah.
Because those are our students that get priority selection in the process. So, you know, we're anticipating that the need for this will grow. We're not going to accept school of choice students that just enter in that 11th grade if we have 40 students in our regular programming. So
Okay.
they're going to, so that's kind of one of the ways that we're selling back, you know, hey, you need to start with
that
us.
incentive.
Plus the other piece of that, the advertising and the parent communication pieces, you know, you really have to get yourself set up. If you need to start thinking about this as a parent in the 8th grade, and certainly by the 9th grade, because you have to set up your schedule so that you're in the best possible scenario for being able to leverage all 60 to 62 of those college credits.
Gotcha.
What about this basketball camp that we're putting on with former pro player John Long? Do we have anything to do with that, or are there going to be a lot of kids that aren't Romulus students?
I don't.
Because I'm thinking that could be a good way too. If we get a lot of enrollment in that, and they're non-Romulus kids, let's start getting some of these flyers out to their parents. I mean, here's the next graduate. We have a Class A basketball team, and this is something Romulus has. And if we get a lot of out of district kids coming to this basketball camp, might be a good way to bring them in.
I'm really not
Romulus.
familiar with it. Do you know when it's going?
I think it's coming in July.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a special.
All right, then it
campus.
is. I think we're talking about the same thing now that
Yeah,
you mentioned the
he's at
date.
the middle. Different
It's-
ages are at different campuses here.
They basically rent space from
Right.
us and rent their own, or
But it might
run
be a
their own
good way to,
program. Yeah,
there
absolutely.
could be a lot of non-residents in that class, and it might be an
There is.
idea to bring in those
He's
kids.
he's had it before,
Yeah.
and there's been non-residents as well as residents, so
So we
it's
can set up.
a large camp, so
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Pass those flyers out to those kids, because here's a graduate of Romulus School that made it to the pros in our basketball program. So I'll be interviewing next week too. Cheap plug.
Okay, back to the depressing conversation.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know if we need to set up a study session to talk about this in detail. It would be my recommendation that we do that.
Good idea.
It's before the 26th.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me go get my calendar.
I think your calendar's in my room.
We need to talk about it in detail already, so I can maybe understand.
And if there are some ideas that we have not talked about, that you've thought of since the last conversation we had, you know, be prepared.
Well, we don't necessarily have to do it on the 17th. What's your schedule look like, Jen?
What day?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Jerry, what day are you? Are we looking at next week or the week after? Next week?
I would say next week. 'Cause
I
this
mean-
week we're ripping around throughout the next week.
You're gonna need us to vote on the budget when?
2 weeks from today.
June 24th.
Well, we need to have one in case we need to have another one. But I'm
That is
just
it. That is
saying,
true.
probably.
So do we
If
need
you
to
wanna
set
do
up
it next
the 17th?
Definitely.
Danielle can't make
I
it.
won't be here.
Okay.
I can't be here.
And John can't either.
Okay, that's not good.
How, this Thursday, the 13th, how is that for? I'm
What's
working.
next Thursday?
That's the 13th.
John's working.
I got all next week open except Monday.
Well, how about Tuesday, the 18th?
I was
Does
gonna
that
say
work?
the 18th.
No, that doesn't work for me.
Okay. Wednesday, the 19th.
I'm good.
Good.
John?
I'm off. I should be able to make it.
Sandy?
Okay.
I can be flexible.
Look at me just.
Well,
Wednesday, the 19th, 6
Okay.
p.m.?
There we go. If you
19th
have
at
some,
6?
if you have some ideas in the meantime that you want to
No,
discuss with
that's on
me,
Wednesday.
give me a call.
I bought some food. I'm just playing.
So I have some time to put some numbers together if there's some concepts
time?
or.
6
Uh,
p.m.
6
And
p.m.
repeat that.
Yes.
Repeat that, Sharon. so
If you
everyone-
have some ideas or concepts, call me, you know, contact me, email or call me so that I have enough time to prepare numbers. If you have some idea on, okay, what would this save us? At least it'll give me some time before that meeting, because then again, that's Wednesday and that next Monday we're going to be approving it. So if you have some, please contact me and I'll be able to put together numbers before the Wednesday meeting.
So you
'Cause that's a
need
week and a half.
ideas by what, Monday?
Yes, that'd be good.
Or before.
Or before.
Okay.
The reason that would be best is because I could go into the meeting with information for you, as opposed to saying, okay, great ideas, but I don't know exactly how much that's going to save or what that's going to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
There is nothing under other. Next item on the agenda is communications and expressions from the public. Anybody wish to address the board? No? Then we'll move on to questions or concerns of board members. Ms. Bowles?
I don't have any questions tonight on anything. Not tonight. I do want to tell the class of 2013 congratulations for graduating. Job well done, well done.
Thank you. Ms. Grubb?
The years flown by very fast.
Yes, it did.
And, you know, tomorrow night is the Hill Creek 5th grade moving up. I've missed a lot of moving ups this year because they've been during the day, but at least I'm hoping to make that.
Ms. Funderburg?
Congratulations 2013 to our high school and our community high school and our adult ed programs. I wanted to know real quick, are we doing kind of how we done in the past, or are we just kind of going solo as far as trying to make these events? Because I know in the past we've, as board members, kind of divvied up who would go to where.
I
They're
think
kind
they're
of
going
spread
solo.
out
They're
this
kind
time,
of, they're
yeah.
kind of spread
Yeah,
out,
they
so I
are.
think, it's up to each board member if
Okay.
they've got, if they're available.
Is there any other ones other than Hill Creek? And well, Bartha's tonight,
Bartha's
but
tonight,
that's in the evening. Am I missing something?
No, most of them were during the day, and they've spread them out over
Right.
multiple
so
days.
Tomorrow at 6 o'clock is the only one I can get.
Okay. That's it for me.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes, I just wanted to say congratulations to our students. We went to the middle school awards recognition for their academic achievements, and we had 56 graders that were on honor roll all year, 56 7th graders, and 62 8th graders So I think that is just outstanding, and I'm so proud of them. And just a lot of awards, so I just want to say kudos to our teaching staff and kudos to our kids. They put in all the work. So, and that is all that I have. Thank you.
Excellent job.
Mr. Steve.
I mirrored the same things about congratulations to the 2013 Eagles who graduated. I was at Rommel today for a moving up ceremony, and we got introduced to a lot of healthy foods over there by one of the teachers. The name escapes me right now, but a lot of healthy snacks for the kids, and fruit and yogurt and vegetables. Actually, watching kids eat green peppers and hummus was pretty weird.
Weird.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. And then also they had the fun fair a couple Fridays back, and that was a fun event also. And if you're not busy, I think Thursday they're serving pizza, aren't they? Last day of school. Ooh, I think they need help.
Okay.
Mrs. Beard.
I'm same thing. I'm piggybacking on everybody else. Congratulations to the community high school and our seniors at the Romulus High School on their graduation. Also, I think a lot of us were at the prom toast, and everybody looked really nice in their attire. And I think some of us had family members there, so we were all glowing and buttons bursting. So, but everybody did a really nice job, and congratulations again to the seniors. That's it.
Ms. McLaughlin, before you get started, can you again announce the scholarship money? How much they...
I don't have the exact figure. $7.4 million.
$7.4 million, yeah.
$7.4 million.
Pardon me?
You're offered that amount.
Yes.
Right.
That's well, that's, yeah, if they're offered that amount,
Yeah, I think the
that's
same
it.
person at 4 different colleges.
They can't go to
take their
4
pick,
colleges,
right.
yeah.
Exactly.
But thank you, yeah, they were offered that amount, so.
Absolutely.
That is amazing.
I would echo the congratulations to Community High and to the high school students on their graduation. Very nice ceremonies. I was struck at the Community High School graduation by the sheer raw emotion of those really cool young men and young ladies as they crossed the stage. And I'm not going to embarrass him by saying a name, but you know, every child should have a cheering section. And I got reminded why we do what we do, because there was a particular student that did not have that big of a cheering section. So I cheered him as he walked past me. And the personal message that I got home waiting for me on my computer when I got home, I'm man enough to say I shed a tear. That's why we're here, for those kids, to be there when someone else can't. I think we all shed tears Saturday at the high school when our wonderful class of 2013 and the staff at the high school produced a stellar ceremony and honored Alexis. It was a touching moment. Again, this community sticks together. That's what it's about, these children. Sorry. We have some special meetings coming up in July. Just want to remind board members of. July 8th is our statutory meeting. That is the meeting that we will rename our banking depositories, all that other procedural stuff that happens every year, and that's when the board will select its officers for the upcoming school year. On July 11th at 6 p.m. there'll be a special meeting study session of the Board of Education. That will be to review the RFPs that are coming in that'll be due on July 8th. And on
6 o'clock, right?
At 6 p.m., yes. And on the 15th of July will be a special meeting for the board to possibly take action on the RFPs. And July 22nd would be our normal second meeting in July. At this point, I'm asking board members to pencil that date in. If there's not a need for that, we will not meet that day if we take care of everything on the 15th. But it's conceivable at this point that we'll meet just about every Monday in July, so we need to be prepared for that.
Just so that I can let everyone know, the July 15th date for me is tentative, but so I've already scheduled my family vacation, which is a road trip, so we'll be driving, which makes it a little bit more flexible than having airplane tickets, you know. So it's kind of up or down on whether or not I'm going to be here, but I've been informed that they would share all the information via email.
Because you will be absent for the 11th meeting, so
yes.
Yeah, so we will be sharing the information with you then.
All the meetings at 6 p.m.?
Yes.
What about a conference call?
The only, the final comment that I'll make is, again, welcome to Dr. Daniels.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward, as I think Sandy said, you know, this year just kind of blinked by. A lot of things have happened this year. We've had a very active year. The transition phase, as we've often referred to it, is over. We have a solid administrative team in place. We have a board that is supportive of the administrative team and of the community, and we will absolutely reach newer heights as we move forward into the next school year. Congratulations to the staff for a wonderful year, and to the students, and I hope they have a safe and happy summer and take advantage of the summer programs that we offer. And with that, there is a need for the board to go into executive session for negotiations update. Yes.
I forgot to tell the board, July 15th through August 15th, Camp Romulus is going to start again. We just hired 20 teachers to teach through summer school.
Yay.
And 25 high school tutors will be serving our kids. Right now we have enrolled about 350 students. Monday through Thursday, stop over to Wick School.
Okay, it'll be at Wick again.
I'll say 9 and 2, and watch the activities.
Yay.
Absolutely. Thank you. No, absolutely. We look forward to that, and I'll make it a point to get over there again this year.
We'll have a picnic. So you guys won't have
Also, one other reminder, housekeeping before we go into executive session. I've been reminded, as is the tradition and protocol of the board, from this meeting forward until the school year starts, we're in casual dress mode, so people can dress how they feel. Well,
no,
okay.
don't say that.
I figured I better clean that up.
Yeah.
Don't want any misunderstandings. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session for negotiations.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we go into executive session for negotiation update.
Support. It's been moved by Ms. Buckley, supported by Mrs. Kraut. Mr. Secretary, could you please do a roll call vote?
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraut?
Yes.
Ms. Funderburg?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Beard?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Theed? Yes. Can we take a break?
Okay. We are going to convene back in open session. The chair will entertain a motion.
Move that we reconvene.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Mr. Theed. Mr. Theed, could you please do a roll call vote?
Mrs. Bowles?
Yes.
Ms. Kraut?
Yes.
Ms. Funderburg?
Yes.
Mrs. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Beard?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Theed, yes.
We are back in open session at 8:25 p.m. There's no further business. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Ms. Buckley. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 8:26. Thank you.